Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, in case you hadn't noticed, I'm dressed slightly differently today. Yes, there's a lot of Airfix stuff around, isn't there? We've got Airfix everything. I've got an Airfix beer glass, I've got a beautiful Airfix mug, and yes, it's really got just plain coffee in it, nothing naughty. An Airfix coffee mug. We've got an Airfix, actually it's a coaster, but I put it on the wall because I think that some people seem to think that I am in the pay of Tamiya because I have their sticker on the wall, just like the sticker, to be honest. I do like some of their kits as well though. Anyway, and several Airfix kits around as well, and in fact I think they sent me 2 of these t-shirts, so yeah, there we go. So I just wanted to first of all say this was all sent to me. I got an email from Dale at Airfix, head of brand, and he basically sent me this. He sent me an email. I'm going to read it to you because I know I'll get it wrong if I don't read it out. I'll probably get the wording wrong. So just read how he worded it. He said, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's got this, by the way, but he said, we've got some merchandise I'd like to send you. Thank you for your ongoing support for the Airfix brand, our products, and playing a crucial role in the modelling community. Stocks are limited, please let me know and we'll send them any wanted sizes and things, you know. And the thing that struck me in that in that short email was the word crucial. I'm a crucial member of the modelling community. My God, it sounds like I've been promoted, frankly. Anyway, thank you very much, Dale. Joking apart, I'm clearly enjoying something that has been missing, because I know you often see me drinking a glass of wine. It's not in every video, of course. Some videos are shot in the morning, so those are probably the ones where I'm not drinking wine. So now I've got no excuse. I've got my Airfix, lovely Airfix mug. Actually, it's bloody hot, this coffee. It's really hot. So I thought, why don't we have a talk about Airfix? And it's actually kicked me off thinking about lots of issues, and not just issues, but attributes is the word I was looking for, not issues. Attributes of not only Airfix, but lots of modelling companies. And I think maybe it'd be quite a good little theme to have a little series of fairly short talks about various popular brands of kits and what they're things I like about them. You may agree, you may disagree. Things I like about them, things I don't like about them, things that I'd like to see improved, the things that I think make them unique, and all this kind of thing. So why not start with Airfix? I'm a Brit, obviously, and there is no more longer running British company in the modelling manufacturing business now than Airfix. So why don't we talk about Airfix? So here's the thing. I listened. I did allude to this in a video just a week or so ago, and I was talking about, I think it was on the Seeking, one of the many videos about the Seeking that Airfix released, which just wasn't a subject that interested me personally. Just the helicopter itself doesn't interest me. It's nothing to do with the kit really at all. And I have shared 1 or 2 views with Airfix a couple of times now about things I'd like to see them do. These are my own views, you know, and everybody that's watching this video won't necessarily share them. But I was trying to get my head round. It's something I'll probably talk to Dale about. I don't want to go into too much detail about this here, it wouldn't be fair, but I sometimes get a bit mystified, not just Airfix, but a lot of companies, why they make certain choices of kits to release. Now, the first one that I questioned was a year ago when they came out with the 24 scale Spitfire Mark 9, because I said, well, we've already got a fantastic, you know, Mark 9 from Tamiya in 1/32 scale. I didn't really see that was kind of that essential, and everybody sort of disagreed with me and said, not everybody, but most people seemed to disagree and said, yes, but you've got to bear in mind that Airfix are a global player. They are known for 24 scale, which is all fair comment actually, and they'll do it really well. Well, I did have a couple of issues with that kit, but I won't go into that now. I'll leave a link to my review of it. And the fact is that they made this choice, and I thought, oh, not, you know, they put time and resource and effort into choosing this very kind of overly obvious choice that's kind of crossing over and overlapping with what other people have done. Didn't really see the need for it. However, the argument that was put forward when it was in various chats, it was frequently, I think Airfix themselves put back the argument that it's understandable. They said, yeah, but we have to be commercial organisation that sells product, and we need to sell our, you know, recoup the costs of the the R&D and the scanning and the research and the moulding and everything else, and it's not cheap. And that kit was actually made in the UK, down on the south coast of England, and moulded in the UK. So that certainly is to be applauded. I thought that was great. And the quality of the plastic and all that kind of thing was excellent. There's one or two things about the design of it I wasn't too sure about, but perhaps get into that in another forum. So their argument was, but this will sell. That's basically what they said. This will sell. You know, you've got to bear in mind we've got to sell product. And of course they're very clever because they made it, there was an American version, a French version, I think, and so on and so forth. And that made a lot of sense. I can see that was 7 different markets. But the reason I was sort of questioning this, and I'll bring it up today, and I will do this with other manufacturers. Don't worry, Airfix, I'm not going to go at you. Other manufacturers are going to get, some manufacturers from Central Europe are going to get an even bigger grilling than this, I can tell you. But my question was, I don't see that their argument for the Spitfire has been followed through with some of the other releases they've had this year. If I'm quite honest about it, I was a little bit disappointed back at their release in January. Now, before you all start, and this is going back to my Tamiya sticker, I didn't sort of finish my sentence when I said that I'd listened to a chat a few weeks ago and about the Sea-King, and people were saying, oh yeah, well, people find fault in anything, because somebody, and it wasn't me, but somebody had made some critical comments about the riveting. I think it had recess riveting, not raised riveting, and there was other comments and blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter what they were really, but the interesting part of the conversation that took place was the way people react to things sometimes. And you see, for me, nobody's perfect. You know, there's a famous quote, and I forget who it's by now, Edmund Burke or somebody, where he says, you know, any man that never made a mistake basically never lived. So don't think that by having a small flaw, a small error in a kit, is that's a bad thing. We all make mistakes. Every one of us on this planet makes mistakes, and if we don't accept that, then we have a serious mental disorder. So it's about having as few mistakes as possible, making it as appealing to as many sort of people, I think, as possible. That's the name of the game, I think. This is where people like Tamiya are very good, and in fairness, it's where Airfix are very strong as well, and always have been, really. So it's not about individual flaws in a model that get people irritated. It's the attitude, and we live in a time of social media now where people, I think, do behave like sheep sometimes and follow each other and have this habit of, it's this thing about retweeting. People think like that, I think, now. I think there's a lot of people that sort of say, oh, why is that? And then somebody gives them the answer, and then they just accept it as fact instead of just doing a bit of research, which is what I do with everything in life, actually. I'll think, oh, is that right? I go, oh, yeah, it's right, okay. Oh, no, actually, that's not right. That's complete rubbish. I remember, I'm not going to quote it now because it will upset people, but there was a political statement made by a politician in America. This is going back about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. And some comment was attributed to a politician, and it turned out that it was actually, he had quoted somebody else in an interview, but it was taken out of context for someone who hadn't read it properly, and was attributed to this person just because they hadn't, and everybody just assumed it was true and retweeted it all over the world and became fact in people's mind. And there's a lot of this goes on, and this is the case with the modelling scenario, because the point I'm getting to is, if and it's not about me particularly, I wasn't involved in this discussion at all, I didn't comment on the Sea-King at all at the time, but somebody had obviously made some negative comments about a couple of aspects of it, and they all said, oh, he's a hater. That's just one of the haters is coming out, the Airfix haters. And then these same people, now these are Brits, I think, that were saying this, so I'm a little bit embarrassed. But the point is, they were sort of, it was this tribalistic sort of view of the world, where if you criticise something, you must be a hater, and if you like something, you must be a fanboy. And the actual words were used by someone who should know better, and said, yeah, well, you know, it's not like it's one of these Tamiya fanboys must have said that, and you had this Tamiya versus Airfix thing being created out of nothing, really. I mean, I alluded to this when I was on a recent review, and I said about this sort of fanboys versus haters scenario. So I thought I'd go into a bit more detail, because it's very pertinent to talk about Airfix, and you'll see why in a minute. So, I don't understand it. I don't understand why you can't be critical if you spot a mistake. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't just dismiss the product because there's a mistake in it. This is exactly why I give a rating out of 10, which, yes, it's a bit subjective, I know. And it's interesting how many times people say that's harsh, oh, that's generous, or that's fair enough. And it's interesting that I generally get it right. Sometimes perhaps I've been, you know, perhaps a bit dewy-eyed with things like winged up wings, I don't know. But I think generally I get it right, you know. And I've been accused, I think somebody once accused me not only a year ago of being an Airfix hater, which is completely rubbish, you know. I mean, I've got just around me some of my favourite Airfix kits, in fact. Although I think there's another one coming through very soon that I'm going to be very enthusiastic about. I know I am, and that's the S2B Buccaneer, Hawk City Buccaneer, Blackburn Buccaneer, in 48 scale, which is due very soon. And I think that's going to be right up my alley. I really do. Unlike the Sea King, that subject is very close to my heart, and that's going to be very special for me. So watch this space. But it's this thing about, you know, if you make a critical comment, I think it's very dangerous, and I think Airfix need to be careful themselves on this, and same applies with Tamiya as well. Don't get complacent because fanboys, I'm using their language, and this is not my language, this is their language themselves that I observed and chuckled at. Be careful, you know, it's like the emperor's new clothes. Don't surround yourselves with too many people who just tell you what you want to hear. Because that is very dangerous. And we see it happening in politics, of course, and you saw it happening in Germany in the 1930s. I know that's a very extreme example to give, I know. And, you know, the East, on the other side of Eastern Europe, we've got something similar going on. Don't surround yourselves with people that only tell you what you want to hear, is what I'm saying. And it's true of Tamiya, and those of you that are listening to this thinking he's a hater, he doesn't like Airfix really, that isn't true. That isn't true. If that was true, Airfix almost came second with the old. Look at the Anson here. This is my third favourite kit of last year. It was my second favourite kit, and it was so close to winning. So close. I was delighted with this. It was fantastic, especially for the money. And it only got pipped because of Tamiya brought out this F35. Even though I'm not as keen on the subject, I'm not a massive fan of the Anson, but it's just so well executed. This kit, I loved it. But it did get pipped down to third, but everything got pipped down. So I'm trying to think what was third now. My memory's gone. Obviously what was third, it ended up knocked off the podium because of this, but anyway. Tamiya came out with something that was exceptionally well executed, and that moved them all down. But for this to get this, I think the Spitfire came out at number 7, if memory serves, 7 or 8 out of 10, on my top 10. Which shows that I was slightly disappointed with it. Nothing to do with me not liking Airfix though. I was being very objective. There were issues with that kit. Not massive, but for its price point, for its expectation, and you know, for how it performed, this did everything better than the Spitfire did. This is my point. I am very, very objective, and I wish we were all a bit more objective. And this is why I like giving the rating, really, because I try and give a rating when I do a review, and I try and justify the rating as best I can. And price is always a very big factor in that rating. I think price, the enjoyment that you'll have, the experience you have with the product, those are the biggest things for me. Not just, you know, how good the plastic looks or one aspect of it or another. You can't brush under the carpet things that are clearly bad, is what I'm saying. And Airfix have produced some kits that have been fairly poor. Not so much recently, but even in the last 10 years, even I've had a couple that have been a bit fairly poor. Not terrible, but not as good as I would have expected. Anyway, Tamiya have done the same thing. So just so you know, I'm not a Tamiya fanboy, which people think I am. I do like Tamiya. I say I'm not a fanboy. If I had to vote, I think Tamiya would be my favourite brand, but they're expensive. You know, you get what you pay for in life, and this is the point. Airfix always say, and this I fully respect and think is good, they are targeting an audience at a certain price, and they try and keep the cost down most of the time. I would love them to explain to me why the Harrier 24 scale Harrier reissue is at £95, because that is just absurd, and they must know that. That hasn't sold well at all, let's face it. That was a mistake. I think the Buccaneer is too expensive. It's £73 retail, thereabouts. Still doesn't quite, you know, they keep saying we can't do this, we can't do that because of price and cost, and we would, you know, that would add another £5. Well, you know, and now I'm going to get into the nub of it, the crux of it. I just mentioned Tamiya. Tamiya are not perfect by a long stretch. You know, I'd like to see some of their instructions. I think they're a little bit set in their ways in the way they're presenting it visually. I'd like to see some improvements there. They've sort of It's with them. It's evolution, not revolution, versus Airfix. Who let me just say, Airfix's strongest points. Here we go. Generally, it's price, apart from one or two exceptions I mentioned. Price. The box art, they've got this guy Alan Tooby working for Adam Tooby, and he's brilliant, a great artist, and he's doing some wonderful work, he really is. That's fantastic. They've got Jonathan Mock doing a lot of their decal designs, he's a fantastic designer, and they've got Cartograph printing them. What's not to like? It's fantastic, brilliant quality. So you've got the box art, packaging generally is fairly solid, you know. You've got great decals, and the instructions, and we'll look at one or two in a minute. Instructions where they're doing it a little bit like ICM are, in that there's not a lot of talk within the instructions. It's all images, so that they can perhaps not have to do lots of different language instructions. But where Airfix are scoring above pretty much everybody, if I'm honestly fair, is that they have learned to show how it should look. They've learned to use colour, and some of the diagrams now are really fantastic. And you're not left guessing anymore in the way that you were before, and you are with so many others, you know, Takom, Kinetic. Let's not go down that road of criticising everybody, but you know there are some manufactured Border, another one, some very poor image in terms of images, in terms of clearly communicating. And then at the other end of the scale, you've got Zokimura, who are just kind of they almost go into overload with the communication, showing it from every angle, what the wheels should look like, what the wings should look like, how things click together. But I love that, I love that. But Airfix are close enough, especially at their price point, to be very highly commended. Very highly commended. For, you know, the most improved instructions in the world are Airfix, I think, no question. So there you go. There's three things that make them stand out. But this thing about choice, just going back to choices, and I mentioned Tamiya, jumping around a little bit. Trying to get the old memory to go in the right direction. So Tamiya, yes, I love Tamiya. But I'm not a fanboy, and I am not above ripping them to pieces if they get it wrong. So they did this is a mystery to me. In 2018 they did this BF109G6 40x scale, which was an absolute joy. One of the best kits of all time, I think. Certainly be in my top 10 kits of all time. And then a year later they produced the Spitfire Mark 1, which has got no engine, which is weird because it's, you know, it's the next one on from this BF109, which has got a lovely engine with removable cowls and you name it. No, the Spitfire comes with no engine, and I found 10 faults with it. Now we can argue about one or two of those faults, but there are several faults. There was problems with the instructions, errors in the instructions. Errors? Really? Tamiya? It just shows nobody's perfect, like I said. Excuse me. It's a gulp of coffee. But I was actually amazed that I found that many faults. The most faults I've ever found in any Tamiya kit, actually, and it wasn't any cheaper than the BF109 was. So a year later, it was the same price, and it wasn't as good. So don't go thinking I'm one of these fanboys that everybody talks about, because if I see something that is wrong, I'm going to say it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So I keep that in the picture. I want Dale to know it's being used. There's nothing wrong with that, and this is my point. So we shouldn't hide away from, you know, if things are wrong in terms of a small error or could have been done better. This is how we evolve, isn't it? All of us, you know, you, me, make a mistake, learn from it, you know. So, you know, when you get errors on kits, I think it's interesting as well. I have to say this. Airfix have got a couple of guys in their design team, a number of guys, and they're all good designers, yeah. But they've got a couple of guys who actually build models and a couple that don't. And I think it does tend to start to show. Because if you're a modeler, you think like a modeler, and you think, and I'm going to give one example here. I'm not going to knock anybody here, but I'll give you one positive example. You got Paramjit, who's a young guy, and he's designed the Mosquito, designed the Buccaneer, which was quite a big project for him. And he seems to have done an absolutely fantastic job of it. I'm not sure if it's Matt Whiting as well that designed this one. I know he designed the Anson. Again, awesome, some really good ideas in it. Some of their other kits are not quite as well thought through in the conceptualisation of it. And you get this, again, with others. Now this is where Tamiya, let's take Paramji, let's just talk about him because we know he's done some that this really applies to. clever ideas like things like masks, building masks in, and creating ways that make it easier to assemble the kit. Very Tamiya-like, yeah, very Tamiya-like. And that's what they are. They're modelers first and foremost. I don't know for sure, but I strongly suspect that the main designers at Tamiya, I bet they can't get a job doing that unless they are a model builder. And I think that's something that all companies really should be aiming for. I mean, I'm starting to think that ICM are probably going the same way, because they're coming up with some great designs, aren't they? So, again, none of these companies are perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect kit, unless it's wing, not wings. But you know, even them, you could argue that I perhaps laud them too much. Their subject matter wasn't my favourite subject either, but the execution was so exceptional. And I've heard people say, yeah, but they're gone now, just forget them. No. Don't forget them, don't forget them. Let's not forget that showed what can be done, and at a very sensible price point. Forget what they cost now. They were £65 to £70 when they came out. There was, you know, the fighter, World War I fighter, £65, £70, and people thought they were expensive until they built one, and then everybody says, "Wow, they're fantastic," you know. And there's so much research and love has gone into them, you know, passion's gone into them. You can feel it, you can see it. So there is no model manufacturer out there. I'm going to talk more about Airfix in a minute specifically, but let's talk generally now. There's no manufacturer out there that can't improve, including Tamiya. Yeah. Tamiya are very good with things like the plastic. The engineering is fantastic, and most of what they do is pretty excellent. But they're still not wing at wings. They're still not quite presenting it as well. Perhaps it's not quite so easy to understand sometimes, especially in the more complex kits. So there's nobody who can't improve, and that's true with most of us, you and me too. We can all improve. Don't see making a mistake as a bad thing. Don't see criticism as a bad thing, as long as it's not overly critical. Now, I will say, and we'll get into this in another episode, there is a manufacturer out there, and this is very pertinent to talk about against Airfix. Airfix do a lot of classic kits. By classic, they mean old ones. Now, what they've been doing, and this is a clever strategy, I think, they're very honest about it. Airfix say, this is an Airfix classic, here it is. And you open the box and you... yeah. Now this for me is like opening a matchbox but in reverse. Now, I was never a big fan of Airfix when I was younger, but they were the first kits I ever made. So I made them before Matchbox, because Matchbox didn't come on until late 72, early 73. So we didn't even see them until then. And I am older than that. So I was actually starting to build just before Matchbox arrived. So my first kits were Airfix, like many of us. But what they're doing now is they're reissuing these old kits where the tooling is still good. I think what they've done, I'm guessing now, but I think they've cleaned up the tooling, probably using acid etching or something like that, just mildly cleaning the surface off. And then they are doing some new decals, and that's a big help when you've got, you know, an old kit but with new decals, with good quality printing. That's quite clever. What they are not doing, I'm glad to say, and this is a credit to Airfix, that they are up front, they're saying this is an old kit, this is what it's going to cost, but you can relive your childhood. It's kind of like bringing Matchbox back, not quite as good as that, but you know what I mean. But there is another company that have brought Matchbox back, or certainly some of the Matchbox kits, but have done it worse than Matchbox did. And I don't want to get into that now because I want to talk today about Airfix. But that other company, there's going to be a tough one. That video I'm going to shoot, it's not going to be a very positive video, I can tell you, because there we have a company that is just misrepresenting things, new boxes on old kits, and not telling people that it's an ancient kit that's 40, 50, 55 years old in some cases. And that is the beauty of Airfix. They're not doing this, they're being completely honest. Most of their new stuff, or newer stuff, many of which I've got around me, and some of the absolute modern classics I've got around me, frankly, I think. This stuff is really well engineered, nicely presented, competitively priced. What's not to like, you know? And they do a lot of good British subjects and others. World War II subjects that are popular. But But coming back to my sort of first point, which I didn't quite finish off, is simply this. I don't really understand always their strategy in terms of, I've been in sales and marketing all my career. And I don't quite understand what they're trying to achieve sometimes. Sometimes it's obvious. I mean, like the Spitfire, I was a bit grumpy about it, but everybody was kind of rightly pointing out to me that, yeah, but they've got to sell it. And this, whether you like it or you don't, this will sell for them. Australia will buy it, Canada will buy it, the French will buy it, the Americans will buy it, you'll buy it, and so on, which is fair comment. But then they come out with things like, I don't want to sound critical, but I just want to speak my mind here. But they came out with something like the Gannet. Now the Gannet's an interesting subject, and I bet they do it really well. But is that really going to be a big long-term seller for them? I'm very doubtful. I'm a bit concerned for that one. I don't think that once the initial excitement's died down, I think they'll be piled high in model shops all over the place, and I don't think they're going to be a very strong seller. After the first 6 months, I think that'll drop off a cliff in terms of sales. Yeah, the Buccaneer, I think, will do better. You know, many of the examples here. I mean, you could argue that the Anson behind me, the Anson's not the strongest subject, but they were, you know, they have got a following in Australia and New Zealand and Canada. So yeah, you can see again, but the Gannet, I just don't get it. And they've done a lot of Royal Navy subjects lately, and not very many RAF ones, not many modern RAF ones. And I think that I've actually communicated to Airfix about this and said, one kit I think that should be the top of their list, and 3 kits I've suggested actually. They're all modern jets, as it turns out. Not deliberately, it's just the way it's, because those are the things that they are neglecting, I think. Excuse me. And number 1 for me that needs addressing is the Seppacat Jaguar strike attack aircraft. No. Yes, it was used by the French. Oman used them, and the Brits used them. There might be another one. I've got to think there's another one. It wasn't widely used around the world, but it was widely used more than the Gannet was. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think that would be very popular in France. I think it would be very popular in the UK. Certainly Oman. There's, you know, in the Middle East, there's 1 or 2 buyers for it. Okay, yes, I understand it's not like a Phantom, which, you know, there's a huge sales potential in the USA. I understand it's not top of their list, but they, as I said, the Gannet, I don't see the logic in the Gannet. It's the one thing that leapt out at me when they made their announcement back in January, and I thought, why? You know, why? Who has persuaded you that this was a good idea? Where is the long-term legs for that product? Because that's what Airfix depend on, you know. They've got a beautiful Wellington here. That's always going to sell, I think, now. You know, Stukas and Hunters, these are always going to sell. Especially when they have a great engineered kit. So, anyway, number 1 was the Jaguar. And the reason being, obviously I'm a little bit passionate about the subject, but I've had other people say it to me as well. Several, and I've been on the Flory forum and many other online chats, and it's getting mentioned all the time. And I think it's not just me. It's not just me mentioning it. Other people bring it up saying we need a Jaguar. We need a Jaguar, and I tell you now, Airfix at Cosford, where the RAF Museum is, just northwest of Birmingham, there are literally dozens of Jaguars in mothball storage in all the bunker. There's bunkers, hangars underground, earth-covered hangars, and there's dozens of them. All the Coltishall Jaguars are there, and they've got them in all different schemes. They've got tiger meat scheme. One's in a tiger scheme. One's like a leopard, a Jaguar. Jaguar, the beast. One is a T2 trainer. There's also, I've seen them. There's all sorts there. It's amazing, you know. Anyway, so there's plenty of material. There's not a shortage of. I'm sure that COS would let you go there and do some scanning, and you could have lots of variants, so that makes sense. So that's the first one for me. Now, as I go down this list, I think more of you will nod more, because they'll become more internationally relevant. So even if you ignore my first choice of the Jaguar, there's also the Tornado. Yeah, the Tornado Cold War jet bomber, and its variants. You know, it's high time that there was a retool of that from Airfix. I'd like to see it in 48 scale. Now we know there's a Revell one, and it's not a bad kit. It's one of their better ones, but it's old now. even if they only did it in 70-second scale, we are high time we had a new Tornado on the market. It's not in service with the RAF anymore, so I don't see that's a problem, because Airfix have this historical policy that they don't normally have things that are currently in service. We'll come to that more in a minute. But the Tornado's gone now, so there's no reason not to do the Tornado, and there's lots of variants you can produce. You know, the F3, the air defence version, FGR1, FGR4, and blah blah blah, Gulf War versions. It'd have legs, wouldn't it? It would have a lot of legs to retool that, and I'm arguing for the Jaguar, but I would understand if they said, no, I'm sorry, Peter, Tornado. Now that I would understand fully, and I'd say, yeah, okay, I understand. But they don't seem to be doing that, and you know, they're faffing around with Gannets and ferret scout cars and things, and bomb bugs, you know, re-earthing the bomb bug. I'm trying to get my head around where they think that these things are going to be selling in a year or two's time, and I think Tornado would sell. Jaguar would sell, Tornado would sell even better, because of course Italy's got them, you know, the Germans have got them, we had them, and is it Spain? Oh, memory's going, Spain I think. So lots of people would be buying that product. And then in a similar vein, my third and final one, which I wanted to promote, was the Eurofighter Typhoon. Now obviously this comes under the heading of this policy that Airfix say, I don't know if it's true or not, but they usually say that not while they're in service, but I wonder why that is. I'd like to see them do a nice one, because the Revell one's not great. It isn't. 48 scale, you know. I mean, I personally like the two-seater version of the Typhoon. I think it looks, they have at Coningsby, you know, the trainer. It looks amazing in two-seat form, I think. It looks so much more proportionally right somehow. More like a Tornado, perhaps, but I don't know. I think that, again, thinking about sales and as a prospect from their Hornby's point of view to tool this up, I think this would have legs for decades, you know. If they do a nice job of a retool on that, that would sell like hotcakes for decades and decades. I'm just saying, don't shoot me down, don't shout me down. They may say no to the last one, but I can't see the excuse for the first two. So again, can we understand this better? I don't know. I think that this year's announcements back in January, I was a bit disappointed, and this is why I've never gone on there and said anything. I was not invited to join there. Was it in February they had an event, like this live YouTubers event? Oh, that didn't go well. That did not go well. A lot of people, I couldn't bear it. I watched about 40 minutes and turned it off, only because it just went wrong technically, I think, really. There was a lot of issues with the sound quality and people's picture quality, sound quality, interactions didn't work. Some people were on far too long, quite frankly. I think 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, the absolute max for a YouTuber to be talking. Given that there are others waiting and there's a whole audience watching, and it was like interacting with just a small room of people instead of listening to the comments in the audience. And I actually shared my views on this with Airfix, and it was nothing to do with the fact that I wasn't invited. I was actually glad I wasn't, because it didn't go too well. But we don't want to dwell on that, because they actually said to me afterwards, they came back, Dale actually said, yeah, we're going to do it differently in future, which is fair enough, you know. I think that they realised that it wasn't really working. I think it's quite stressful for them to manage it as well. Perhaps not the best for them. Perhaps if they want to do that in the future, get the YouTubers in a room together and just pass the mic around, which I know is old school, but it works. They can control it better. They have control of the quality, the sound, the vision and everything else, and it keeps it simple, really. I personally wouldn't have done it like that at all. I wouldn't invite the YouTubers on, including me. I don't think that's not the way forward for them. And that was one other thing I wanted to mention about things that I'm a bit uncomfortable with about the way Airfix have been operating. And again, I'm not trying to do them down, because I'm going to go on to all the positive stuff in a moment. But they do have this obsession at the moment with all this strange over-communication of trivia, I would call it. Strange little shorts on YouTube that shows a photo. There's a photo of a Eurofighter the other day saying, can you guess what it is? And I nearly wrote back and said, look, are you going to build one or not? 'Cause if not, what is the point of this video? What's it all about? And there's a lot of quite trivial stuff that's going on, over communication of silly things that are not promoting a product particularly, and you think, I don't get that, what was the purpose of this video? I think there's a little bit of an obsession with social media there, and it's not necessarily a great thing. Now, I'm not a fan of social media because I'm not on social media. What do you say? It's a TV channel almost. Via YouTube anyway. I'm not on social media. You can't find me on any platform on social media. I'm not interested in it at all. I think social media is great for business. Yes, I agree with Airfix having social media, but it's as though they're trying to appeal to youngsters, but with the right format. But I think that the people who buy their product are probably not interested in what they're promoting, and it's all coming across as a bit lightweight and a bit silly. Again, I would just sound like I've been too critical now. I'm sure you're all shooting me down in flames already. Probably. I'm getting flamed. I'm not trying to do them down, but I think they need to have a rethink about it. That's all, and just try and make it a little bit more serious. I mean, imagine me doing shorts where I knock champagne over, or spill the coffee, or break somebody's models. That could be a real successful channel, couldn't it? But you know what I mean. You know, there has to be a little bit more depth, a bit more meaning. It's all right having a bit of fun, but I don't know. Some of it is coming across as overly lightweight, trivial, silly. Even if I was like 15 or 20, I don't think it would amuse me particularly, some of the stuff they're doing. And I think they need to control their output and try and perhaps have it a little bit more professional, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more focused. I mean, when they have the designers on and they have these sprue talks, those are really good. I enjoy those. I just think they're going a bit off beam here. They're going a bit off message. And it's all becoming a bit extreme. Anyway, I don't want to be negative. It's just unusual. I think other manufacturers are not doing that. There's probably a reason, yeah? I'm not sure it's helping them engage with a new audience. A lot of companies are doing things like that, and it actually just alienates your existing clients. So I would urge them to just have another rethink on that, that's all, and have a think. Anyway, don't want to upset anybody because I'm very much in their debt at the moment. So I'm going to make you forget the last 5 minutes of what I just said by talking about all the good things about Airfix. Now, apart from my beautiful beer glass, so I can now go to pints of beer. That'll be great on the channel, won't it? Right, I better move that so it doesn't get smashed. But I'm going to talk about a few of my recent favourites of recent years. The one that's not here is the Buccaneer. Again, I did moan about, did grumble about the perhaps a bit too much emphasis on naval subjects, which is, it's as though at Airfix that somebody, you know, somebody has got their ear who is a naval fanatic. It's probably Jamie Haggo or somebody like that that's been in the Navy, but it doesn't matter. But I just think they've neglected other areas, you know. But what they've done over the last 6 to 10 years, there has been some exceptional kits. And I've got a couple of them here, a couple of more recent ones. Obviously we've got the Anson. I'm going to start with the Stuka, I think, which is one I definitely intend to build. By the way, this one looks slightly strange, it's actually cut off a bit because the box got shortened to do with 2016 it is, so it's 7 years on. I'm not going to do a review of it, but I'm just going to go through and just give you an idea why I like it, very briefly. And this was sort of when they started to really get these instructions clearer and better, and they started using the colours and all the things I've said are really good, you know. Oops, the decals have just dropped down. And like I say, I'm not going to do a review because it's already done. You can go and see it. But the clarity, the diagrams are super clear. They're adding colour. These little sections where it shows. I'm not actually the biggest fan of this, if I'm honest, but at least once it's explained to you, you can understand it. So the bit you've just done is in red for whatever reason. I don't know where they got this plan from, but it's certainly clearer than a Takom instruction book, that's for sure. But they're using good quality imaging. The CAD they're doing is very skillfully done. Everything's really clear, and I just like the way that they don't try and cram 44 parts into one image, which some others do to try and keep the cost of the actual instructions down, and you end up with, you know, kinetic, don't you, if you're not careful. I mean, it's just really well executed, and that's before we even get to the plastic, you know. I mean, I flipped through this. I bought this because I've not got a Stuka apart from my collectible Matchbox ones. Obviously, I'm not going to build those. No, way would I do that? They're worth millions. They're mint. Anyway, let's not get into that. And by the way, there is one other thing. There is an elephant in the room about Airfix, and I've got to say this. Talking about Matchbox, what about some blooming pilots in the kits? Yeah, they seem to be straying away from that now. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We need to have crew in our kits because we also need to have stands, especially in the smaller kits, so we can display them in flight. Now I know at Airfix how you can buy the stands separately. Have you seen them? They need that. Those need the tool cleaning up. Talking about the original sort of A shape. Looks a bit like the Star Trek Starfleet logo. I bought some of them. They're terrible quality. I think they just need to clean up the tool, to be honest, because they weren't nice. They weren't nice products, and it doesn't flatter your model at all. So if I was them, I think if I was to walk into Airfix and they say, "We'll grant you one wish, but it mustn't cost more than £5 for the item," say, and I'd say, or £10, say, and I'd say, right, retool your stands. Number one. The second thing is dioramas for small armoured fighting vehicles. Well, I was always going to say this, wasn't I? But you can see that Revell, for all there, and we'll talk about them in a separate video. We'll get into them, don't you worry. Airfix will look back and they might be look at this now saying, he's been a bit harsh on us. No. No. Wait till you see the Revell vid. That's going to be fun. Oh, calm down. Don't get too excited. But obviously they've got these dioramas and these little scenes that they do with figures as well. Now they've taken those straight from the Matchbox moulds that they've got. I don't see why Airfix can't gradually, I don't mean just, oh yes, we'll do a diorama with everything. No, I'm not saying that. But just those small 72nd scale ones, I think you should start adding them in. Or sell them as a separate item. Now I know you have got little buildings and things that you've sold in the past. Maybe think of it more specifically designed for, say, 2 vehicles of your set with like a Normandy scene or a D-Day beach scene or something specific that you can then just drop in and then say recommended kits are Tiger Tank, Sherman Firefly or whatever. Think about this because these would sell. I think personally, if it was my choice, I'd do it the Matchbox way. I'd keep it simple and cheap and I'd just have it as part of the kit. And I think, and this is where we get back to this thing about cost and pricing. Don't become, I'm speaking from personal experience, okay? Companies that obsessify about cost never ever innovate because of it. They do not innovate and they very rarely survive because they are constantly trying to cheapen everything. Other competitors come in offering something better that the customer wants and they succeed. They sell their product. They dominate the market in the end, and the one that's obsessed about cost ends up with an empty warehouse, an empty factory, and the place shut down. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the case with Airfix, and we know that Hornby did a great job of saving this company from the ashes of the Humbrol ownership, which was a bit of a mess, really. But anyway, that's another story. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you haven't done it in the past. Doesn't mean you can't do it in the future, and I think they need to just try and think about in the next 5 to 10 years what would help really sell those products better. And I tell you now, dioramas is the one answer. Dioramas in your little tanks and stands and pilots in your small aircraft, 72nd scale kits. Because if you've got those things, people can display them flying, and some youngsters especially like to see the thing in flight, and I think that's something we should get back to. In fact, there's a famous YouTuber, is it Becca's Models, the Australian guy? Or is he Kiwi? I'm not sure, forgive me if he's watching. I think he's an Aussie. And he likes to display them in flight. I agree with him, we've got to get back to having the choices. What I don't think is getting appreciated, and this is not just Airfix, a lot of companies are like this, they get so obsessed about the cost and what the competition are currently doing, they don't think about the future. What would sell next month and next year? Don't worry about what sold last year. That is gone. Yeah, that ship has long since sailed. What would make people spend an extra £1 or an extra £5 on a kit? If it was true that cost was everything, you wouldn't sell any Buccaneers, would you? You wouldn't. Not £73. So cost is not that vital. That Buccaneer is a fantastic kit. Okay, we know it is. It sells because it's a fantastic kit. So if you add something creating more shelf appeal, like diorama scenes, stands and pilots, etc., or a bit of crew, if you add that and it costs you another £3-4 to make it, add £6 onto the kit, it'll still sell. What's more, you'll probably bring in a whole new audience on top. Nobody's going to say, well, this is £1 dearer than the Revell version, so I'm not buying it. Because they're going to look at it and think, this is new, I've got to have it, and it'll be new Airfix tool quality, good designers, it'll be better. This is the way they need to be thinking. Anyway, I'm digressing. Another thing is you want to stop this nonsense about not having swastikas. We all know, we've seen what ICM do and Tamiya and everybody else. There are ways around it. The policy of not doing that is just not fathomable. I don't understand it. If those other companies can do it, why can't Airfix? So I just thought I'd mention that. Sound like I'm having a go at them again, and that's not what I'm here to do. Nice clear parts. I'm going to keep them in the bag though. There's some lovely plastic in here. Is this a sealed one? I just realised I think it's one of my sealed ones and I can't show you. It says. Yes, it is actually a sealed one, this. And I think somebody might have opened it in the past because it's got some of my Tamiya tape in there. So it must be a reseal bag. But this is one of these kits that when they started to turn the corner about 2014 to 2016 is when Airfix's quality started to become something really special. They've got the great instructions. The plastic looks really nice. This is one of the harder plastics, not that strange blue stuff that was like blue tack. Very soft. This has got a lovely detailed engine in it as well. That's a really nice kit. And it's one that, you know, I've got all these kits and let's face it, I've got a stash like many of you. I'm probably not going to build it all, never. Just enough years left in me. I can't let go of this one because it's a Stuka. People that have built it say it's a nice kit as well. And it's got so many beautiful details. The engine's lovely, it's got lovely props and, you know, all the dive brakes and the flaps and stuff. It's an absolute corker, that kit. If you haven't got yourself one of these and you fancy a Stuka, you can't go wrong. That is my personal choice for a 48 scale Stuka. I'm going to build that. It's a pledge. I don't know when. So it's about everything, don't I? But I intend to because I know it'll be a good experience. Then we've got similar sort of time. No, a bit more recent, 2018. The Vickers Wellington, again with amazing. They're getting it. The Matchbox thing, they're getting it. Still no stands or dioramas. I'm repeating myself, but they've got this beautiful thing about nice artwork, telling a story on the front. People like stories. It fires the imagination, not just like under the Humbrol ownership in the 90s where they had this terrible photograph of a really badly made and painted kit with no weathering that looked like it'd been built by a 6-7 year old. And no wonder they went out of business, really, you know. Now, this is how it should be done. Now this is the blue plastic, very pale blue. However, we won't hold that against it because I think this is made in India, isn't it? This is the Indian production. Not that that matters as such. It's more the quality of the actual styrene that really is critical here. Again, a further development of what I've just been talking about. Now this is interesting because in this kit they have a very unusual, there's a lot of it that actually won't be visible. And they mark it in green, which is, again, okay, it's a bit frustrating, not going to see it. But you know it's there, and if you want to do a cutaway section or battle damaged or something like that, so it can be seen, they're giving you the choice, which is what I've just been talking about. You can see how nice it looks, so you're left in no doubt this is going to be in green. You won't see that unless you open it up in some way. Okay, you can also have the option of just skipping it, and then those parts you can just ignore and move on. So they're giving you the information, they're giving you the option. Absolutely, again. And this kit's got some fairly stunning injection moulding as well. I took one look at it and thought that's the nicest Wellington I've ever seen. By far. It's got all the geodetic construction, the lattice work is all there. Really beautifully done. You've got this fantastic interior, very much like we'll see on the Anson. They've basically recreated the entire interior of this model, you know, and it's 72nd scale. Did I say that? 72nd scale. I think this is unprecedented. So I was very, very enthusiastic about this when it came out, and I did the review. My opinion has not changed a bit. You know, a couple of years later since I did that, you've got some nice decals again. I think the cartograph doesn't actually say, but I think this is when they moved to cartograph, a bit bent. It's flattened. You've got these lovely colour call-outs that we do, of course, now. We've all got used to these now, but we didn't used to do them. Yeah, absolutely. Very Tamiya-like this is. Excellent. Yeah, that's the way, isn't it? So, yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Clear as you like. Dead easy to follow. Anybody, any age can follow that. Any country, any language, doesn't matter. Very, very easy to follow. Makes it pretty clear. And again, unlike Takom, Hong Kong model, wasn't it, with the beautiful kit, the Lancaster 48 scale, but they had you build all 3 gun turrets at once without saying which was which. Absolutely impossible to follow. This they do one at a time. They do one, then they slot it in. They do one, then they slot it in. Simple, logical. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice. Yeah. I tell you what though, I do miss the no crew in it. And I do miss this thing where they used to, in the instructions, they used to show the crew member and it would be like Matt Whiting's face, or I don't know, Paramjit, or it'd be Chris or whoever. It's all a bit comical, but quite fun, you know. In fact, I think that's in the Stuka. Did I check that? I'm going to check it. Is that the case? I don't know if it comes with crew or not, actually. I must know, because that was quite a funny thing about, in the sort of, started around about 2012, didn't it, onwards I think, thereabouts. It's got a horrible feeling it doesn't have any crew either. No, it doesn't have crew, sadly. Okay. Yeah, you see they dropped it by stealth. I think we'd like to see them come back, and again, you know, they were asked this question at one of the events earlier in the year, and they started talking about cost. Now, don't go down that road, it's a mistake, yeah? It's a mistake. People will buy it because it has crew in it, yeah? It's actually a selling point. Anything that has a cost has a value. Things that cost nothing, people are not interested in. It's like when people get free stuff, you know, they very rarely invest in things. Oh, so it's a free car or something, you know. But when people get things that are given away, not people like me, Dale. No. I appreciate things. Honest, as you can see. but it's quite often the case that people, when they get free stuff, they don't appreciate the same. They're not a stakeholder anymore. They haven't bought into it. They're not invested in it on any level. Therefore, they don't care about it. So you find that they don't sort of appreciate things the same. Let me have a look at, before we get to the answer, which I think is one of the finest they've ever done, actually. Until that buccaneer arrives. Let's go to Hunter, Hawker Hunter, another classic. Now I've got some extra decals in this. Oh, and some resin. Oh dear, don't look Airfix, don't look. Look away now. But, again, fairly straightforward kit, not a huge amount of parts. Put that over there for a second. Not a huge amount of parts. Good plastic, nice and clear. And it's something that we needed, a proper, decent Hunter. Now, what year was this? 2017, was it? Again, 2018, same as the Wellington. Interesting, though. Do get some nice decals. Nothing wrong with the decals. I only bought extras because I wanted to have something a bit more of the sort of low-vis camo scheme decals and things like that. But there's some excellent decals in here. Cartograph's finest, I'm pretty sure. So I'll pop that over there. And again, the same modern, fantastic quality. No crew though. Look at it. Look at the way they go about it. Everybody says this is a lovely kit to build. Fairly straightforward, no major issues, apart from I think around the intakes, but you always get that with jets, I'm afraid, don't you? But they weren't major, Don't forget to put your nose weight in just behind the pilot in this case. And the cockpit, we get one of those wonderful colour call out sheets. fact there must be more than one. Yeah, so you can see what I mean. I wanted the sort of, more like later low vis, sort of 1970 onwards, sort of, when you got the Battle of Britain display aircraft. Beautiful, isn't it? This is like Tamiya. That's absolutely, you know. If I'm a Tamiya fanboy, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to be honest. There's nothing wrong with liking quality. It doesn't matter whether you drive a nice car, you've got a nice watch, you've got a nice house, or wine, or whatever it is, cigars, anything. You know, bicycles, stereos, doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with really appreciating things that are done well. This is done well. This is Tamiya standard, isn't it? You know, it's clear. Again, Zokimura creeping in here. This is what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to emulate or take ideas from the best in the industry, especially for a manufacturer. Showing you how the deflection should be clearly stated clearly, not left to guess like you are in a kinetic kit, for example. It's all there. It's all there. Superb quality, great quality, beautiful clarity. Again, Zokimura style creeping in here, showing the angles. Very nice, very, very nice. A lovely kit. Drop tanks. Do it a weapon. But of course, that was the GR9, I think, the ground attack version, wasn't it? Not the greatest expert hunters, but yeah. Whoa! Got the Union Jack. We can't do that. That wasn't very clever. Bound to happen though. Got my Airfix emblems and the Union Jack. Dropped it. We have lost the base. Get it back, don't you worry. There we go. Thank you very much. Can't go on without the Union flag. So, just going to drop those into there, and then we come to our last one. Once I've shown you the bit of the plastic, is this unsealed? No, this is sealed as well. Okay, well, I'm not going to unseal it, but I say again, I've got the blue plastic, which is not my favourite, but very well moulded. You know, the tooling was good, very crisp. Everybody says it goes together. Really nice kit. This. That's one I intend to build, which is why I bought the extras for it. And at least one of you will be listening and saying, "Did you just say that? Use that word again? Intend to build." I haven't upset anybody with all this. What I'm saying is, really, Airfix are a brilliant brand. One of the best all-rounders in the industry. They just need to work on, think about carefully, I think, about how they move forward. I'll try and get into this because this has got to be seen. Yeah, how do they move forward into the future? I do sometimes think they're a bit obsessed with the past. And whilst they've got a great back catalogue, you know, one of the best really. There's no harm in resurrecting one or two things from that, but don't be frightened to try new things and do a bit of innovation. And I think it's innovating that they need to focus on. If they could, you know, try some new things. 2 bags, 3 bags. Look at this, many bags. This is good. There's an innovation for you straight away. Because normally, historically, Airfix pack everything in one bag. Right, the Anson. So again, I've done the review on this. I'll put a link in. This came out with, I think, fairly low expectations. Nobody was really demanding it in the same way as we are with a Jaguar or a Tornado or a blooming Eurofighter. But it just, for me, this is like a technical demonstration of just what Airfix is capable of achieving and did achieve brilliantly. Superb execution on this. Everything is just right on it. It's got great visuals. You've got your lovely colour call-outs there. You've got your Canadian, you've got your Aussie versions. Nice decals. Again, don't need to sort of go into too much detail, but again, going down this Zokimura route, which I really like. Here, showing you the right way and the wrong way to put things in. So when you're fixing in your side panels, the right way, the wrong way. That is fantastic. Clear communication again down here. Same thing. Right way, wrong way. Do it like this, not like this. That's brilliant. This is a big step forward for Airfix. This is the kind of thing we need. Now this again, I know this was designed by Matt Whiting, and I don't know Matt that well, I met him a couple of times, but I think he does models, I think he does build them from time to time, because it's just got that, if he doesn't build them himself, he's clearly had Pramjit or somebody else that's a mad model maker involved, because it's built from a modeller's perspective, and it's trying to help you at every stage, every step. It's trying to assist you. Do it the right way, do it the wrong way, don't do it like this. You're not left like, I know I keep saying kinetic, but I'm going to, aren't I? It's just a guessing game, which is what one of my videos was called, the guessing game, wasn't it? A guessing game. It's like, oh no, it's wrong, I ruined it. No, they're helping you. They're helping you. This is good value, yeah? Good design, intelligent thought, a clear strategy of thinking how to execute it and how to help you execute the build. That is what's lacking in so many models, even today. Some of these Far East things, you know, border, beautifully engineered, beautifully injection moulded, but just not thought through, not communicated properly. Poor communication, poor execution, and you end up fighting them then, trying to understand what colour it should be. You know, they can't even on the board, they can't even tell you what the instrument's supposed to be, the interior parts, the engine parts, nothing. I mean, on the new Focke-Wulf they brought out recently, they couldn't even get the name right. They called it a Messerschmitt FW190. I mean, you couldn't make it up. Here we have, this is another classic example of where I mentioned Tamiya, no, not because I'm a fanboy, but because I do like them, and they are probably the standard for moulding quality. And this, you know, I said this I think at the time, that if this had Tamiya logos on it, you wouldn't be surprised. You wouldn't think it was anything else. There's a quality here. There's a beauty in terms of the way that they conceive the parts. The clear parts are really well done. Best of all was this beautiful sculpturing of the finish, the actual contours on the surface of the wing, from this veneer finish that it has, this aero ply. Everybody says, oh no, it doesn't do that, and blah 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 blah, and lots of people don't know what they're talking about. And it was explained to me by Matt Whiting himself, and he said, no, it's aero ply. It's a very thin veneer of wood that does shrink and contract and expand, and therefore, depending on the temperatures it's kept in and the conditions it's kept in, it can actually alter over time, over a short time, and you get this effect where it has this almost a stretched skin effect. This is a work of genius, quite frankly. And this is why it almost got second. It almost won Kit of the Year last year. So that's how much I appreciate when Airfix absolutely nails it. I'm sure this Buccaneer that's coming through for them in the near future will do the same. They are the premium British brand. As a Brit, I want them to thrive. I want to see them thrive into the future and continue to grow. Would love to see them expand, you know, increase the size of their design team. We've all seen this Hornby programme on TV, and I've got to say, the programme itself did frustrate me a lot because there wasn't enough Airfix in it, was the major problem. But there wasn't a lot of anything else either. It was just trains, and more damn trains, damn them! Like the old man said in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Was it The Good, the Bad and the Ugly? For a few dollars more, I think it was. Clint Eastwood goes to see this old man trying to find out who Lee Van Cleef really is. Colonel Mortimer. Anyway, I'm digressing. Go see the movie. It's quite a funny scene when the train comes and all these buildings shaking his head. And he says, it's the trains, the damn trains, damn them! And I felt like that when I watched that Hornby programme. It was nothing but bloody trains from start to finish. There was hardly any scale extra apart from Mr. Bean at the end. There was nothing on Corgi, which I thought was astonishing because that's one of the Hornby brands. It was too much trains, way too much trains. I don't mind everybody having their bit, you know, we all have different hobbies, but it was so disproportionate. Less of the trains, more Airfix. We should have had a couple more bits of scale electric, a couple of bits of Corgi, and about 50% less trains because it was overbearing, really. Not Airfix or Hornby's fault. I know there were issues with the way that was done. I know that there were, I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I know some of the things that went on, and I think it was challenging for some of the staff to cope with it, and then lots of people made contributions that were then not shown. Don't understand that. But that's television companies for you. They like to sensationalise it and put on strange people, and anyway, won't go down that road. But it would be nice to see the brand grow in size, and I think one of the ways for them is to carefully select how you approach the future, what you include in your kits, select themes and subjects that will sell. And I'm not sure the Gannet is one of those. I just have to say it because from the day it was announced I thought, okay. No, I don't think that's going to be a massive seller once the initial excitement dies down. This time next year it'll be forgotten about, frankly. So I think that maybe think about the Jag, think about the Tornado. These things will sell, and they'll sell in international markets, you know. And the Eurofighter, of course, when you're ready. When you're ready, sir. Anyway, I just want to say that the brand Airfix is it has improved a quantum leap on where it used to be. I had a very, very low opinion of it. People talk about haters and fanboys. I probably was a hater in the 70s. I wasn't. I was always disappointed when I opened the box. Always. Well, you're not disappointed when you open these boxes. They are. I mean, this just took my breath away. I was absolutely amazed by it. Frankly, it was so far beyond my expectations. I loved it, and that's why it was rated so highly. The Spitfire was nice. It was a nice kit. Not quite so special though. Not quite. Perhaps the other way around. A little bit lower than my expectations were, perhaps. So I think again they need to be careful with that. They need to think about the design, whether it's designed from a modeller's perspective. Is it going to help the modeller? Are there errors in other kits? I mean competitor kits now, not Airfix's own. Are there other kits that have got things perhaps a little mistaken that you can dial out and do it better? You need to benchmark the market. That would help them tremendously, I think, moving forward. Anyway, I've probably been on far too long. I hope nobody thinks I'm knocking Airfix. I'm just being objective. There are things they're doing which are absolutely amazing work. I think they need to knock off some of this social media rubbish that's frankly just, some of it's just bizarre and pointless and doesn't seem to be there for a reason. Almost childish, some of it. But some of the actual work they're doing in terms of design and the moulding, presentation, fantastic, you know, really, really excellent. So I really wish them the best of luck. Thank you very much for their merchandise, their excellent stuff they've given me. And I'm now going to go on and I say, anybody who thinks I've been a bit harsh on Airfix, wait till you see the rest. The next one will be a company based in Germany, and you're going to find it very entertaining. Nothing to do with the fact they're based in Germany, but a company that I think has completely lost its way, frankly. We'll get into that another day though. So for now, thank you very much to Airfix, really appreciate it. I do support your brand very, very strongly. I love some of your products, as you've seen. There are many, many others which I'm neglecting down here. Fantastic kit, some of my favourites are here. Can't wait for the Buccaneer to come out, really looking forward to that. Because I think that's going to be right up my street and a beautiful quality product. I'm sure it will be. So I just wish them all the luck in the world. I hope that next year maybe they can have a bit more of a stronger release, maybe a plan for some more interesting stuff and a bit more of it, because I think the issue I had at the beginning of the year was there didn't seem to be very much there at all. Now of course they brought the Seeking out, which none of us were expecting, so thumbs up for that. Even though it's not my personal cup of tea, it's a great release and it's good to have an extra item, you know. But other reviews I do for other companies, shall we say, in other countries that are in terrible difficulties at the moment, seem to be able to release 2 or 3 major new kits every month. So again, this is what I'm saying about the Hornby thing. About Hornby need to invest a bit more money, I think, down to Dale and Airfix, and let them have a bit more capital to choose the right subjects, to really focus in on things that will be well received generally and have the legs to sell well into the future and be long-term successes. If they can do that a bit more, so I hope next year we'll have a lot more from them, you know, because when Airfix are good, they're as good as anybody. I mean, this is as good as a Tamiya. It is, really. Yeah, especially at the price point again. I mean, what was that? £50 thereabouts? I mean, that's half the price of alright, the Tamiya that beat it was £100, but it's twice the price, you know, so for the money, absolutely awesome product. Awesome product. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you didn't think I was too critical, and I hope you can see that as I go through the other manufacturers, because I'm going to do all the major ones. I think I'm going to do Tamiya, Revell, ICM. Kind of already done in a way, but we'll revisit ICM, and of course we've got plenty to go at, haven't we, in terms of choices? You know, Great Wall, Hobby, Kinetic. I'm probably not going to do because I think you know my views on them already. Takom, I'll talk about Takom. I think we'll do a little show on each one of them, because this is sort of this generosity from Airfix with the freebies has made me think, well, I need to talk about Airfix. There are some things I wanted to say which I think are fair, and I wanted to say the good things, the bad things, how they can improve, the things that we love. Interested to see what your comments are, but just hold your fire a little bit, because I say when you see the next one and some of the others, you'll understand that I do love Airfix a lot. I do. I have a great passion for them and what they do. They're a massive player in this hobby and this industry, and I think we need them to succeed and thrive in the future. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I didn't want to detract today. I didn't wear a fancy watch. I just wanted to have the Airfix stuff, the logos and everything here, and that to be the main focus of attention today. So, well done Airfix. Hope you're going to go from strength to strength. Look forward to your next new releases in the near future. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Hope you'll give me a thumbs up at a 10 out of 10. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Ding the notification bell if you haven't done, because there are a few issues around this. Excuse me. Several people now in the last 2 weeks have had problems with live chat. They can't get the comments on live chat. We've got more serious. We've got people who are not getting any notification. One chap said that I was his favourite channel on YouTube, which is very nice of him. Gosh, perhaps it's the only one he watches. But he also said he was really worried about it because he wasn't getting notifications. He doesn't even get my material suggested to him at all. And he said he just doesn't understand it. So something at YouTube is not right at the moment. I don't know what they're doing. I keep checking my settings are all normal. Don't get it really. I don't get it. I did notice that one of my videos came up as being under animals and science and animals or something, pets and animals. So I changed that. So whether some of them need, I might go back and just double check on those settings when it's first uploaded. But that shouldn't affect chat. I don't understand what's going on. They're trying to be too clever for their own good and need to just maybe try and make it simpler. And try and use an algorithm that automatically locks on. If people are looking at models, show them model vids. If they're looking at cars, show them car vids, and etc. Anyway, I'll try and have a double check to make sure everything's right at my end. So I hope to see you all in the near future. Thanks very much for all your time. I hope you enjoyed it and thought it was thought-provoking today. By all means, give me all your comments and your feedback. And until the next one of these, which I think you might find is going to be very interesting. I don't think I'll be planning any trips to Germany soon, that's for sure. I don't think I'll be allowed in the country, but more of that later. Nothing to do with our German friends, just that particular company, yeah. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Be sure to tune in for the next one because you'll find it very entertaining. Thanks a lot, and until then, take care of yourselves, and bye for now.